All right, Paul Sponcia, CEO of the IT company, working in the comfort of my home under COVID-19 pandemic stay-at-home orders, as all of us. And I'm here with my friend and my attorney, from a business perspective, John Wood. And I'm going to let you tell everybody who you are and who the firm is and kind of what your specialty is, and et cetera.
Okay. Yeah, my name's John Wood. I'm with Egerton McAfee here in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we are a general purpose law firm that represents businesses like Paul's in all types of matters, from litigation to transactional matters. My background is specifically in software. I have an undergrad and master's in computer science. I worked for an extended period of time in the software industry before I went to law school. And so my practice has focused around assisting technology companies, software companies, and then with licensing issues, software, technology, do a lot of trademark work, copyright work, those types of things. And also general business work as well.
One of the things that we've been evaluating just as a company, I think what people don't think about that thankfully here did not happen is if we run a small business and 50% of our workforce came down with COVID-19 and couldn't work, what do we do? And so we're putting contingency plans in place with our peer group members and partners to kind of pick up the, as part of our business continuity and continuity of operations plan. And obviously force majeure is a component of that if we had to, but nobody wants to get to that point. You and I have talked about this a lot. Like, you have a contract, but you just don't want to get there. Like, you don't want to have to do that. So having a bit more of a plan in place is the key piece of this. Force majeure is great. It's there. It's in place. Make sure you do a good job with it to mitigate risk and protect yourself, but you got to focus on continuity of operations more than anything else.
I agree. Making sure you can still operate is a lot better than having to fall back on a force majeure clause. Because if you're having to do that, that means things are really bad, and you're not able to do what you need to do.
Yeah. Has it ever happened before? Have you ever? Is there examples where it's been enacted or utilized or whatever the word for it is?
Probably the only example of a quarantine in the U.S., or at least the last example, was the 1918 Spanish flu. And I did look at a case from then, and like I said, force majeure most directly applies to the delivery of goods. So it's Citrus Soap Company versus Peet Brothers Manufacturing Company. And so Citrus Soap had an agreement to supply Peet Brothers Manufacturing with glycerin so they could make soap. And they were supposed to supply them with a lot of glycerin. And they were providing it. So Peet Brothers agreed to buy it for a certain price, and Citrus Soap agreed to provide it by a certain date. So they were going to get their money. Peet Brothers can make their soap and meet whatever requirements they have. Well, right in the middle of that, this was in California, the San Francisco closed their factory, closed the Citrus Soap Company's factory, and said, sorry, you can't manufacture soap right now because we have the Spanish flu. Everybody has to go home. There's a quarantine. We're doing social distancing. They probably didn't call it social distancing then, but they had a quarantine. They sent everybody home. So there was no way they could manufacture the soap. And they were supposed to provide it by December 21st. They were able to provide it by January 9th. So they didn't miss the date by that much. Peet Brothers refused the shipment, said, you're late, I'm not paying you. Sent it back. And so Citrus Soap Company refused and said, you have to pay me. Now, the interesting thing is, in the meantime, the price of soap glycerin had dropped by a third. And so what Peet Brothers was really trying to do was get out of their contract to pay.
Got it.
But Citrus Soap Company relied on their force majeure clause, which said if there's an act out of our control, then we're excused for performance during that time. And the court found for them and said, no, Peat Brothers, you owe them the money for the soap. You had a contract to buy it, and there's a clear force majeure clause in here that says if there's something unforeseeable, then they're excused from performance for that time. So, and they found that, they made all the efforts. A big part of the analysis is just because the event happened, were you really precluded from doing what you could do, right? Had you done everything, like, did they ramp up immediately afterwards?
Right.
Could they have still made the date, right? So they weren't that late. They were a couple of weeks late. And it seems obvious Peat Brothers was trying to get a deal. They had made a bad contract. They had agreed to buy for a higher price. Yeah. And now because of all the economy got all messed up, prices dropped, they wanted a good deal, and the court didn't let them out of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So in that case, the Citrus Soap Company was able to use their force majeure clause to enforce the contract and get paid.